Hello everyone and welcome to another episode in my Tailwind CSS miniseries. Now in this video we are going to be covering Flexbox in Tailwind. Now for those of you who do not know, Flexbox as a tool is a kind of CSS concept that's used to make one-dimensional layouts. And what one-dimensional means, it means a line basically. So for example, this navbar here on Google about store Gmail images, this is a Flexbox that kind of just goes horizontally and lays out these items in kind of a straight line. So normally this is a very, very important concept in CSS, and if you're not familiar, I highly recommend that you check out my Flexbox CSS miniseries, where I go into much greater depth across 6 episodes, everything about Flexbox, as opposed to this one video where we're just going to be scratching the surface using Flexbox in Tailwind CSS. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and start by opening up our index.html and hitting the go live. And then I am going to also pull up the Tailwind docs. Tailwind docs right there. And then let's just go ahead and review. So in the previous episode, we created a simple kind of circle. We did have a border on it. Remember, we had border like 8, I think. And then it was like border blue 300 or something like that. Yeah, we had like a cool border. So yeah, that's, borders are very, very simple using Tailwind. And I really only recently, started learning, maybe a month ago. And it has really just it's amazing how easy it is to create layouts with it. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and remove this div so that we don't get confused. And we're going to start by creating a simple simple Flexbox layout. So to start, I'm probably going to create 3 divs. And in each one, I'm going to give them different classes. Let's just give them all different backgrounds. Oops. So let's just say BG and then blue 400. And let's figure out here. Let's just give it green and then let's give it red maybe. So as you can see, am I doing something? Oh yeah, my bad. I need to give them widths, of course. So I'll just give them some heights here. So give it a width of maybe 32 and a height of 32. And with that, now we have 3 simple squares, and they all look pretty nice. And what we're going to want to do now is lay these out in what's called a flex kind of layout. So in order to use flex, you need to have a div that kind of encompasses these 3, and you need to give it a class of flex. And as soon as we do that, you'll notice that they get laid out kind of in a straight line. And the reason for that is by default, flex goes kind of goes horizontally. And notice when I kind of inspect here and I check this div with the class of flex, notice its width goes across the entire, if you see this highlighted area where it's white, it goes across the entire kind of screen horizontally. So in order to actually use flex, we can, for example, center these 3 squares. In order to do that, we can say justify dash center. And by doing that, notice now these 3 squares are in the center. And I'm going to pull up the docs just so you can see all the possible things. There's justify start, end, center, between, around, and evenly. So I'll go ahead and just quickly show you all of them. So of course, by default, it is justify start, and that'll put them at the start of the screen. Naturally, justify end will put them on the right side of the screen. You already saw justify center, but there's also justify around, which will basically add even space in between each or around each square. And then justify between will add even space between each square. And then justify evenly will add even space between everything in this flex. So there's even spacing between all of the elements. So those are all the kind of different things that you can do. I'm going to do center for now. And then notice another thing we can do is we can also vertically center these squares on the screen. So in order to do that, you're going to need to use align items. And again, these are all terms that are covered in my Flexbox CSS miniseries. If you're not familiar, highly recommend you check it out. I left a card in the top right for easy access. So aligning items, you can use items start and center, baseline, and stretch. So we're going to go ahead and use items center. And notice when I do this, it doesn't do anything. And the reason for that being, you have to inspect here. Notice that this blue only covers like, it doesn't go below. And I can kind of show that off if I give our big overarching box div a background of like purple 400. Notice now the purple only covers this much. And in order to actually get the squares to vertically center in the screen, we're going to have to give it a height of screen. So we can say h-screen or h-full also works. And notice I'm going to remove this background because, or not full, h-screen. But let's give it a little bit of a nicer color. Maybe, let's see how yellow fares. Nope, that is not nice. Let's give it orange. Or I don't even know if orange is a color. Okay, so I'll just remove it and we'll keep it white. So again, once I set the height to screen, then this will set the overarching div's height to screen, and when you use item center, it will vertically center all of these 3 items, which is pretty cool. And then on top of that, in addition, you can change the flex direction. So again, flex by default is going in a row, but you can actually change, and I'll pull up the docs really here. You can change it to be flex row or flex call. And if you change it to call, notice these items are now vertically aligned. So that's how you can create, again, straight line UIs, either going horizontal or vertical. So I think that pretty much covered the basics of Flex overall. I'm going to quickly do a navbar kind of example. So yeah, just bear with me here. It'll be somewhat similar to the 6th episode in our Flexbox mini-series, but it'll be just using Tailwind, and you can see how much quicker it is. So of course, I'm going to create a header, and then I'm going to create a nav on the inside. And then the nav itself will be a flex layout, or no, it won't. The nav will have a UL, which will have LIs. It'll have, let's just have 4 LIs. So give the UL itself a class of flex in order to make it a flex item thing. And then inside all of these LIs, we could say, we could say like home, maybe home, about, contact, shop, maybe. Like this is just a basic kind of website layout. And then for each of these LIs, let's give them some, some like width of maybe 30, width of 16, height of maybe 4, background color of blue 400 maybe, just so we can get some, let's make that a little bit taller, 8. Okay, and then let's go ahead and, oops, I did not mean to do that. And then let's go ahead and basically contact and shop, set up our flex layout. So in order to actually do this properly, we want basically the home and about to be on the left side, the contact and shop to be on the right side, and then we want to add some margin. So what we'll do is actually we're going to add some margin to these. So we'll say I think it's L, it's for margin left. Maybe 4, yeah, so that way now they have some margin on the inside. And then let's go ahead and say actually for this one here on the third item here, contact, since we want to move it to the right, if you remember using margin, you have to say margin auto, and doing that it'll push it all the way over to the right side. And actually we'll remove the left margin from the first item, that way we get a nice even distribution. So we have home and about here on the left, contact and shop on the right. And this is not exactly the same layout, but again, notice how quick it was to design rather than going into our CSS and specifying a flex layout and specifying like all of these widths and heights and backgrounds. It's just so much quicker and so much easier to use Tailwind. So that's pretty much all I had planned for this video. If you enjoyed this and want to see more videos on Tailwind, go ahead and check out the playlist, which is linked in the description. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications whenever I post new videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.